Castor oil.
Castor oil. Castor oil. Oh, castor oil.
Castor oil.
Castor oil. Castor oil.
Castor oil has become this huge thing on social media lately. Stick around to the end of the video because I'm going to share with you my before and after pictures, also some surprising results, and a few cautionary tales on how to use castor oil. It's been around for thousands of years. It's mostly made up of the fatty acid ricinoleic acid. It's an emollient and an occlusive. It's in many cosmetic products that we use. It's in the dermatology needleless serum. It's in the Jones Road Miracle Balm. It's actually in one of my favorite lip masks these days. This is the Pudding by Fenty. I love this. And actually when I put it on, I was like, this seems a lot like castor oil. And I looked it up. Castor oil was the third ingredient. Tarte actually has one in their Clay CC Corrector Balm. Vichy has it in their Stick SPF. Castor oil really literally is everywhere, whether you know you're using it or not. I actually used castor oil in 2019 to try and help grow my lashes when it was a big thing. Old trends become new trends and they kind of cycle around, and castor oil is no different. It's just having a moment. There are so many ways people are recommending to use castor oil. I want to be very clear that I used it over the last 30 days for only aesthetic purposes. Topically, nothing internal and nothing medicinal. So I used it on my face in the evening for slugging. I used it on my feet, rough bumpy bits on my elbows, knees, and my scaly legs. I also used it on my cuticles and my nails, on my lips, and very sparingly and very reluctantly in my hair. And I also tried it once again for lashes. Stick around to the end of the video because I'm going to share with you my before and after pictures, also some surprising results. First, I'm going to quickly go over what castor oil is, what its properties are, why in the world would people use it in cosmetics or on its own topically in place of a cosmetic. It's basically an oil from a bean. Cold pressed and unfiltered. That was the one that was recommended by most people, so that's what I picked up. You store it in a cool, dry place. You never want to use castor oil if it smells like it's gone off. It should smell pure. It should smell like just a slightly nutty scent. Now, the properties of castor oil: it's anti-inflammatory. It has vitamin E, which is an antioxidant, which can help scavenge free radicals and help support collagen. It has nutrients, it has triglycerides, it's an occlusive, it can help with transepidermal water loss, it can help soften skin. It could be a replacement for your facial oil because this is an occlusive. It traps water into the skin and helps you prevent transepidermal water loss and dehydration. It's not going to hydrate your skin. I am able to use this on top of breakouts. I don't consider the pimples that I get actual acne. They are breakouts, they are occasional, and I heal with PIE, post-inflammatory erythema, redness. If I use a little bit of facial oil or an occlusive on my breakouts as they're starting to heal, that actually helps speed up the healing and reduce the residual pigmentation that I get. It could actually exacerbate your acne. So just remember, my experience is unique to me and my skin type. As I always say, you need to know your skin before introducing new products. If you have dry skin and use a facial oil regularly, you're probably going to be able to incorporate this into your skin routine, no problem. I have dry skin. I use facial oils regularly. I had no additional issues with incorporating castor oil into my routine as a replacement for my facial oils or as an occlusive over my body care. It just wasn't an issue. But you have to know your skin and know how your skin is going to react. If you used facial oils in the past and it didn't work out, it's likely that castor oil may not work for you. If you've never tried castor oil and you're not quite sure, definitely do a patch test. So I'm going to do a quick demonstration on how I incorporated it into my facial routine. I found it very easy to apply, and I'm going to show you how I did it. I take a puddle of it, about a dime size, and I swirl it in my hands. So I just put it in my hands and I warm it up. And I do that a couple times. And so it's evenly distributed on my hands and I pat it into my skin. So that's how I would apply it in the evening over my regular skincare as a facial oil after I've done my skincare, before I go to bed, let it kind of settle in. It's just a very thin layer. And basically that's called slugging. I have slugged with Vaseline in the past, the petrolatum, and never had an issue. So this incorporated into my evening skincare routine very easily. Now, how did I use it for my lashes? When I patted it into my skin, I patted it over my eyes as well. I just used the same amount that was on my hands and then patted it into my lash line. I found that using a lash brush in the past just had it seep into my eyes, which was very uncomfortable for me. So I just patted it onto my lashes to avoid any getting into my eyes. The next use was on my cuticles. So any residual that I had after applying it to my face, I would use on my cuticles. I used this little dropper, I kept it by the sink, and I would apply it throughout the day. I actually carried this around in my purse and used it instead of a hand lotion. Also at night, I would apply it to my feet and my elbows and my scaly legs, just a very thin layer in the same method that I showed you. And I just pat it in over my body lotion, let it soak in for a few minutes, and had no problem with it being too thick and goopy. As long as you kind of do the method that I showed you, get a nice thin layer, it worked out fine for me. If you have slightly oily skin, you might want to use it in with another carrier oil like squalane oil. That would be a great one. The Ordinary makes a really inexpensive squalane oil, a couple drops of squalane, a couple drops of your castor oil, and then put it on your rough and bumpy bits. Now, how in the world did I use it for my hair? A lot of you wanted me to try it for hair growth, and I was super skeptical. I did some reading on applying castor oil to the scalp, and it just didn't seem like something I was willing to do. It's a very thick oil. I just thought I would have a lot of problems rinsing it and washing it out of my hair. But I eventually broke down and I did try it once. And the way I used it is I put it in the OGX hair oil that I was already using. I dropped a few drops of castor oil in that, and then I massaged it into my scalp. And actually my hair turned out great. I didn't have any problems washing it out, but I'm really skeptical to use it like neat on my head because I just have a feeling that it would be really hard to get out. And I don't really have a lot of confidence, at least at this point in my hair growth journey, that this is going to help grow my hair. I'd rather focus on the Calcium Advanced Hair System that I'm using, on my minoxidil, and maybe some Nutrifoil. Some of you have recommended that you'd like me to try the Nutrifoil. So I have some other plans for my hair growth journey. For softening my hair and used in a carrier oil, no problem. I like the way it turned out, super soft. It wasn't hard to wash out, but I think if I used it neat or on its own, it would be likely impossible to wash out. So let's look at my before and after photos. I took these pictures right after cleansing, no skincare, so you could get a really good idea of what my skin looked like prior to adding skincare to hydrate it, and get a good idea of how well castor oil worked over time. So let's first look at my lashes. I'm going to do the before and the after. What do you think? Do you see any lash growth before and after? Personally, I don't see much of a difference. I also want to be clear that I'm using a lash growth serum that I'll have a video coming out in about 2 weeks. So in addition to patting on the castor oil in the evenings during my facial oil routine, I also used a lash serum. I let that dry down before I applied this, as I did all my other skincare. But I really don't see a difference in my lash growth. Let's take a look at the pictures of the skin on my face before and after. Again, it's right after cleansing. I haven't applied any skincare. I don't have my sunscreen on yet. So this is just my skin, plain. Now in the before picture, you can see my wrinkles, you can see my forehead lines, and my after, they're really not any different. I've heard claims on social media that castor oil can be a replacement for your Botox and fillers. I honestly don't think that's the case. As you can see, my forehead lines are the same. My glabellar lines are the same. My nasolabial folds are the same. So I just want to be very clear that I don't feel castor oil is in any way a replacement for Botox or filler. Its mechanism of action is completely different from Botox. It's an occlusive, it's an emollient. It helps soften the skin, whereas Botox actually freezes the muscles so you can't contract. And filler obviously fills in hollows and can be a biostimulator. So they work completely differently. Now, argireline, which is also a topical, does have some evidence of actually working closer to the mechanism of Botox. I haven't personally had any luck with that. But again, just a caution that castor oil is not going to replace the use of Botox or filler, in my very humble opinion. Now let's look at my hands before and after. I actually see a nice improvement of the cuticle area. In fact, this was my most positive experience using castor oil, and I will definitely continue to use castor oil on my cuticles. It's better than any nail oil I've ever used. I used to use sunflower oil for years. I've tried various nail oils, ones with peptides, ones with just different combinations of oils. Castor oil has beat all of them, but you have to be consistent. I have to use it about 3 times a day, but I was putting hand lotion on 3 times a day anyway, and I just put a very thin layer on my hands and then an extra layer on my cuticles, and I really feel like it's made a huge difference. Now, as far as my nails, they didn't grow any faster, they didn't get any stronger, they still split and crack. I think just genetically, my nails genetically just don't grow very heartily. They're very thin, they're very brittle, and have always had brittle, dry nails. The last way that I used castor oil that I absolutely love and will continue to use is on my lips. Like I said, it's the 3rd ingredient in one of my favorite lip balms, and I love it. It's a very inexpensive replacement. I also think it's very helpful for when I go out in the cool, dry weather. Just pat on a little bit of a layer of this, especially if I'm going to be out for a while. It's perfect to help lock in all the moisture and hydration that you're doing during your skincare routine, and perfect for lips. I love it for my cuticles. So there are ways that I'm going to continue using castor oil in my skincare routine. I hope you've enjoyed today's video and gotten a few tips. Thanks very much for watching, and wishing you all a skintastic day.